Hey, we are developing this app that it calls Trends Calculator. This app calculates the trend, the half, and the median. The past video I explained how to do the design of this app and what are the names of each element. I recommend you to see the video to avoid confusions at the moment of the programming. This time we'll do the part of the trend. It will calculate the trends. There are 1, 2, 3 or whatever amount of trends. This algorithm works in other programming languages. It will serve at the same. Okay, go to App Inventor. Okay, on blocks part, and we'll start the programming with the Add button. This button will add the new data of the text box to a list in which we will review the data. We will calculate the trend, the half, and the median. But in this case, we will only do the part of the trend. So we initialize a variable that we are going to call numbers, and on list we use an element to create an empty list. When we do this, on the number list we will aggregate elements. So we use this block add item to list. We will aggregate to the list number, to the number list. The item will be what the text box has, but we are going to replace the elements. This block replaces some elements of the text or other thing. In this case will be the text will be what the numbers text box have in that text attribute. That is what the users wrote. To avoid another problems, we will eliminate the spaces because we can't calculate the space. So to the segment that we will eliminate, we duplicate this. The segment that we are going to eliminate will be the spaces. If it finds a space, it will delete it, and we only will save the numbers. Now what we need to do is to the numbers label we will aggregate this new element, and we will aggregate out the list. For this we are going to put a set text of number list. We will do a process which will delete the parentheses and the commas. It will replace the comma for scripts. I'll explain a little bit how the list stores the data. The name, for example, Mario, comma, Valentin, comma, 5, comma, hello. It stores the data in this form. So it will delete the parentheses, and we will change the commas for scripts with each space. So it will look like this. So we will do a process to do that. This process will return a result, and it will replace the text. So we duplicate this, but we will replace what the number list have. So we put a get. So it will replace the commas for scripts. It will be like this space script space. Okay, and we need another of this to replace the parentheses. We delete this. In this case, we are going to delete the parentheses. In a second thought, we will leave the parentheses like that. Sometimes in different versions of App Inventor, it aggregates some quotation marks to each data, so we will delete it. And we will leave the data with the parentheses. Okay, here we replace for nothing, blank, and we put it inside of this. So this will replace the string of the numbers variable. It will delete it and it will put the list with all the data. But this will serve us for only for this case of the list. But when it returns the thread, it will return it at the same mode, like you see in the previous video. So it will work with various elements. It will generate what the user sent. So we aggregate this variable, which we will call elements. And we change this for the elements variable. Now in this part we call process. Here we change the name here. I put clean list. Here is the variable that we are going to send it. To delete the parentheses and most easiest, we use this block list to CSV row list, and we send it the elements. This block convert all the data. For example, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so it will generate this list. We are going to change the commas for scripts, and we'll delete the quotation marks, so it will do the same with any list, and that's easiest. Okay, now we will clean the text box where the user writes the number to insert another number. So we put this and we put an empty text. So those are the things that almost we are going to use. Also we need to do to clean the button. Yeah, here when button click, it will get the numbers list. And we put it, this is number list. We add it here. And here we put number list. Also we need to clean the list which we have the data. We will delete it and it will restart. And to the trend label, we have to put the normal script. So with this we have the clean button. We change it here and we copy this for the other elements, half and median. So with this we have the process that will clean all the data. I'll show you how it works on the app. Okay, and I'll test it. 2 and add. And like you see, Now is on the number list. I'll aggregate another 5, add, and like you see, it convert the commas for a script. 6, add, and it writes like that. And if we click on the clean button, it cleaned the data and it restored the text box and the list. Okay, let's do the part of the number list. This part is a little complicated. It's the part where we calculate the trend. The trend is the most difficult to calculate instead the half or the median. So for this we need another process. We're going to do all by process to, to avoid confusions. This is trends calculus. Here when the button click, we'll call to this. It will be according that you insert the numbers. So here we are going to start the trend part. And for this we need some variables because it will calculate any amount of trends. It could calculate multiple trends. So first we create all the variables that we need. So we initialize 5 variables. We put it in 0. And to create more variables, we put in here until it becomes to 5. Each variable will save some data and some will be in list form and others will be in values. But first we are going to rename all the variables. In this case this will call number. It will be the number of the list that we select. Number. Another one will be the number list that we have already selected. It won't count it again. It will call list of numbers. Another that will be the maximum number that it repeat in the list. For example, there's 5 numbers too, but when it calculates again, it finds 10 numbers 8. We need to know which is the most repeated number. So this is prev max repeated. That is previous most repeated number. And another will be the actual number max repeated. And to the last one, we calculate the trend of the list. We will generate the trends that it found it. So for this, we put these elements here. It creates an empty list. And for both these, we put it in 0. And to the last one, to this trend, is also a list, an empty list. Okay, now with a 4, we calculate each inserted numbers on the number list. For this, in control, we put this for cycle. This variable will be the count. So this variable will be the count. This will start in 1 and it will stop until the amount of the inserted numbers of the numbers list. So we go to list and we put length of list, that it returns the total amount of elements. In this case is the numbers list, that is global numbers. Here is where we save the numbers. Okay, now we will save the selected number in the number variable. So we put a select to the list. We will select the element that is on the count. The list will be the number list, and the index will be the count. If it selects the first element, it will be 1, and it will increase the position until it becomes to the total amount of elements. And this we need to restart each time when it finds another number. We have to initialize it in 0. And now we are going to do another for cycle, which will analyze the number, and it will count how many equals number are in the number list. For example, the first element is 2. It will aggregate two numbers, and it will compare with the other numbers, and it will count the amount of repeated numbers too. So we put the 4. Okay, this is gonna be very similar. It also will review all the number list. Here I'll change some variables because it could generate an error in one cycle, and it could stop the last cycle. Okay, in this cycle, we'll ignore the numbers that it has already reviewed. If it reviewed the number 2, the next time it won't count again. So for this, we put an item. The list is gonna be the already viewed number, and the items, it's gonna be the number. So if it has a reviewed number, it won't count this number again in the elements counting. We put an if here, and inside this if we put an equal logic. Here on list we put this block. This block sends a true if the selected number is already on the list, and in the opposite case it sends false. So here we are going to send the number, which it will select on this 4. For example, here is on the number variable, and if it's already on the number list, that number won't review again. So in case that this returns false, it means that this number has never been reviewed, and it could count it. So in this case, it will enter to this if, and in the if we are going to compare if the number that we are reviewing is equals to this number, it means that it is again in the list. So we need another if. In this case, we need an equal logic in the same form, but in this case, we put a select in the same form that we are comparing if this number is equals to this to this other, that is the number that we are reviewing. So we duplicate this. So each time that we find a number, the maximum repeated number will increase the counter. So for this we put a set. It's gonna be the maximum repeated will increase in 1. Remember that we initialize in 0. In math we put a sum. We duplicate this. The max repeated plus 1. This will repeat one time for each number of the list, and it will increase the maximum. Now we have to compare if this number is greater than the number of the list. For example, if we review the number 2 and now we review the number 7 and there's 8 repeated numbers, so it is graded. It means that the previous number has been deleted. There's a most repeated number. So for this we need an if, which we will calculate this. Control if. Here we use a math of higher. Remember that we put a previous max repeated. So in case that max repeated is higher than prev max repeated, it means that the new number that we are checking is the most repeated. So we put prev max repeated. So in this case, the previous max repeated will be here will be the previous. It's gonna be equals to max repeated, that is the actual. So now it will save the actual value of repeated numbers. So it will replace the previous max repeated for the actual most repeated. And now we need to save the most repeated number in the trend list. So for this we will do almost the same. Reset the trend list. So in this case, that it find one, it will create a list. It doesn't matter if the list has already numbers, it will restart it in 0, and we will add a number that will be the number that we are checking. If it be before it found the amount of each other, it will delete the inferior numbers and it will keep only the most repeated number. In case that max repeated and previous repeated be equals, it means that it's a multiple trend. There's 2 or more trends. So for this we put an else if, and we will do the same calculus. We duplicate this in case that this is equals. We will add an item to the trend list. For example, if here we found 8 numbers 4, but then we found 8 numbers of 3, we put add items to list. So it will add to the list number that we found. To the trend list. So with this form, it found some repeated numbers with the same amount. It will add to the list. Okay, now we will continue. Okay, now we have to write in the trend label all the numbers that we found. Okay, so on label, we only put this set text. Remember that we have already done a process that eliminates the parentheses and commas. So we will use the same process, but this time for the list. We will use the same element, is list to CSV row, and we send it a trend that contains all the elements. Okay, now let's test the app. Okay, now I'll aggregate some numbers. 2. Here the trend is 2. Now is 2 and 3. Those are the most repeated. I put another 2 and now the trend is 2. Okay, now add a 6 and again is the 2. Now I will put a 3 and now there's a multiple trend 2 and 3. Another 6 and now the 2, 3 and 6 is the most repeated. And if I add a 3, the 3 will be the trend now. And like you see, it works. Okay, this is the algorithm to calculate the trend, also a multiple trend. Okay, in other video we will see the half and in other video the median. Don't forget to watch the first video of the design of the app. Okay, see you next time. Bye.